possible place where the confrontation happened quickly. And like you say, unless you have a key to the elevator or knowledge, or you're an insider.
Hey, Jim, I'm just going to pause. Hey, Jim.
Who's an insider.
Yeah, Jim, sorry. We just got some new information I want to report. Jonathan Dienstover at our partners at NBC New York, WNBC, is reporting that he's hearing the active shooter has shot himself on the 33rd floor of the building in question. There is also a photo that is being circulated that NBC New York is also showing of a man wearing a suit holding an assault rifle. Tom, I know you've seen this photo. We're going to put it up once it comes in. We have it now.
Yeah,
okay, so
our control room is in the process. In fairness to them, I just sent it to them, so they're going to have it's going to take them a second to bring it up as fast as they are. But the photo very clearly depicts an individual armed with a long gun, alluding to what I was talking to you about just a few moments ago. You're looking
this
at
is
it
the
right
photo
there.
here.
Yeah, so this was captured from a surveillance camera, and the NYPD is looking for this individual, possibly in connection with this active shooting incident. I don't think I need to do a lot of description here. He's depicted as holding what is clearly a long gun there, believed to be an assault rifle. He's got it in his right hand. Unclear to me, if you look at his shirt, he's got this light blue shirt here. See how it appears to be a little puffed out in front, Tom? There was
it's untucked too.
Yeah, and untucked. So there was some question as to whether or not this individual had some sort of a bulletproof vest. It's not clear at all to us, at least initially here. Perhaps it is to the police department, who specifically this individual is, what their background is, what their history is. That'll all be part of the investigation, but they are awfully fast, and I can tell you they're headed down a track on this right now.
Jim, you're a former ATF agent. I want you to walk our viewers through the weapon that we're looking at right here, and specifically two things: what we see on the muzzle there, and also the type of ammo that we're seeing, the jacket, if you will, on this weapon here. Talk to our viewers what you're noticing.
Yeah, it's a military-style rifle. It looks to be. It's hard to see because his clothes are dark.
Military
I'm trying
style.
to get an outline of the receiver there. It may be an AR-15 variant. It looks like about a 30-round magazine sticking out of the back, and he's got a muzzle brake, or it could be a silencer or a suppressor, as we call them, wrapped in some kind of gauze or tape. Looks like you might have a strap with the weapon as well. There's some kind of a khaki strap hanging down there, but clearly, I mean, that's a 30-round magazine he's got. He's got plenty of ammo to shoot there, and he's taken some pains to create some kind of a device for himself. It looks to be. It's hard because his leg is right. The black pants right behind the weapon, but and then, military style weapon, high velocity, rapid fire, certainly at least semi-automatic at the very least. The rapid fire could also be fully automatic. But,
and then Jim, you have a man, he's wearing sunglasses. He's got the rifle, the assault rifle, right by his side, and he appears to casually be strolling in. What does this tell you about his motives and what he wants to do, or what he thinks?
Yeah. That's exactly right. That's the thing to notice, Tom. The stroll. I mean, he's definitely on his mission. He's ready to go. Look at how he's striding in there. He wants to do this. He's ready to go. He's got his weapon, his sunglasses, and he's walking briskly toward his target. What is the reason for that? We don't know. Is he, like I said before, he could be an insider, somebody done him wrong?
At this point, guys, just so you know, this is the, quote, shooter in New York City, Midtown Manhattan. The building that he's going into here now, they just released a report that they think he shot himself on the 33rd floor of this building. Looking at that close-up picture of him to the far right-hand side of your screen, it looks like that could either be a suppressor on the muzzle, or I guess it's a strong possibility that it's one of those slings that has like the more material on it that it looks like it's an extension of the muzzle, that it might be a suppressor. This idiot who's the gun expert on right now called it a strap, but in normal circles you call that a sling. And but I said this the other day. I said it. They're talking about NFA stuff. I said, watch these next shootings are going to start having suppressors, and they're going to be short barrel rifles or short barrel shotguns. This one looks like a standard 6-inch barrel on this one. I don't think this is an SBS, or excuse me, an SBR. SBR. But that's most likely a suppressor on there, which would be historically one of the first times in history that an AR-15 with a suppressor, probably the first time that one is used in an actual, quote, mass shooting. So I'll turn the volume back up. I just kind of want to let you guys know where we're at right now. It does sound like this guy was on the loose, but it sounds like they do have him now. Yes, he has shot one officer multiple times. I think 2 people are dead, but I don't want to say that because it was kind of in supposition. So I don't know if that for a fact, but that has been said. So I'll bring you back to the live stream from NBC.
Why that floor? Why is he there? And he commits suicide there. So, there's going to be an interesting set of facts to unravel as why the shooter is there.
And how he's able to get that far. Tom Winter has some new reporting. Tom, let's get you in here.
Sure. So I just want to be clear with the specific floor. We've heard that change several times. And that's not surprising to me because an individual is going to report certain things on certain floor. Which one did he go to? Of course, there's stairwells, there's fire escapes. So fire stairwells. So this individual could have traveled up and down floors. So I just want to mention that. So this person was described to us as an individual that they're looking for. They believe in connection with this incident. We're still waiting to get some name and other details from this person. We do know that one police officer working a paid detail was shot as a result of this incident. We know that at least one civilian has been critically injured as a result of this incident, and it is possible that other civilians could have been injured. I put a bit of an asterisk on that, Tom. You can only imagine the situation in a New York City office building. An individual comes in and starts shooting. We have seen injuries in the past, people trying to run, people trying to flee. Understandably, they fall down, they injure themselves in that process. So I'm still trying to get some additional information, but it does appear preliminarily at least one police officer shot, condition unknown, working a paid detail in Midtown Manhattan. And then another individual, somebody who's not a police officer, was also shot as well, and waiting to hear if we're going to hear about any other additional injuries or shooting victims. So that's some information that we're working on. How this basically went down, I'm told, is that it came out over the radio that an officer, there's some sort of an engagement here that occurs, obviously. And then at that point, police immediately identified the severity of the situation and called for SRG units, which is the NYPD's Strategic Response Group. That group was stood up after a number of terror incidents in Europe under Bill Bratton's command. And basically what the idea of that unit was that there would always be police officers on the street conducting police work that had the heavy weapons, the NYPD's assault rifles, in the truck, in the car, ready to go as soon as there was a reported active shooter. And that's what happened here tonight. In the training, and I've been out with the training with this team on several occasions and gone to the NYPD's active shooter school, they basically, they're training and they're continually told and yelled at to go towards the shooting. It's the last thing you and I would do, Tom. If I saw this guy in the street, I'd run, pick up the phone and call 911. But they are trained to go towards that incident, try to confront this individual. At the very least, he's going to be paying attention to police and not to people that would be working in an office building or any other major building or event site here in New York City. So that's kind of how this went down. That's how this went. The top of the police department are there. I mean, you've got the chief of the department are there, the deputy mayor for public safety. You've got all the top brass in the city either responding or already at the scene. They were there even before I joined you on set within a half hour of this incident. So that should give you a sense of what happened.
Thank you for that, 2741. I appreciate you.
Into this part of the city, there's a multi-block radius cordon off around it. They are in the process of evacuating floor by floor, getting people out of the building and getting them into elevators or getting them into the stairwells to get people out. So that's where this stands at this time. They're going to slow it down here a little bit because they, as our colleague Jonathan Deans reported, there is the possibility here that they know where this individual is. This incident may be over, and they're going to start to do some investigative work as well. Not that they hadn't been doing that already. So who this person is this definitely the person responsible for it? That's the type of information that they're looking at right now. But at least this is a photo that is circulating in law enforcement circles of an individual that they're interested in finding possibly in connection with this incident. You know, Tom, we were talking about when I first came on and joined you about a half hour ago, how unusual it is to see somebody with a weapon like this in New York City. I certainly have never seen it, and if I did, I would run to find the closest police officer and be calling 911 while I was running. So this is not something that we see in New York City at all.
He does
Clearly
look
not
like a
police
snack bar
officer,
owner
and,
also.
definitely grabbed the
Pretty
attention
sure that.
of whoever was working there at the building. So we hope that everybody here survives this incident, but we're still waiting on getting firm conditions, and we're still waiting on hearing. I'm just going to check my email as I say it, whether or not the mayor is going to have a specific press conference time. That's typically a bulletin that goes out to all of us reporters.
If you're just joining our coverage here, we continue to monitor the massive police situation in Midtown Manhattan right now. From what we understand, there was a shooting around 6 o'clock tonight on 52nd Street and Park Avenue, Park between 52nd and 51st. It is 345 Park Avenue. It is the headquarters of the investment giant Blackstone. It is unclear what the gunman's motives were, but that was the picture we were just showing to you. He simply, what appears from the surveillance video, strolled into 345 Park Avenue with what looks like to be an assault rifle with a very heavy magazine, maybe something on the muzzle as well, strolls in, shoots at least one civilian, and shoots a police officer who was on detail. The conditions of those people and whether more people were shot is still unclear. That building is on lockdown. We also have from Jonathan Deans, our reporter for WNBC, NBC New York, has reported that the gunman appears to be down. Either he took his own life or police took him out. That's still unclear. We know the skyscraper's around 44 floors. Usually they have pretty strong security. But if that man was able to enter the building, then enter the elevator bank with an assault rifle is terrifying because it's unclear where he was headed or what he wanted to do. Stephen Romo is on the scene for us right now. Stephen, give us a sort of an eye of what you're seeing and what you're hearing right now.
Hey, Tom, yes, we're at 51st and 3rd, about as close as we can get to the building right now. And it's a real scene, as you can imagine. These people all around looking and worried about the shooter that was reported loose in Midtown Manhattan, waiting eagerly for an update from police. We saw Mayor Eric Adams tweeting.
I'm looking at another site that says that they have people in custody.
Saying that they are watching Twitter looking for any kind of update because they would like to try to make it through and go home.
Thank you again, Testing. I appreciate you, brother. And I do think you're right. This smells like Vegas.
Closer to this building on Park, trying to make their way over there. Also seeing police officers even being kept back. We saw police officers with their full gear on, making their way closer to the building, but other officers, we told they have very little information, that they need to stay back as well. This, as you mentioned, this building, home to a lot of major firms, you mentioned Blackstone, the NFL. It is a massive building. It looks like it takes up this full city block here. So you can imagine it's a long time for these officers to make their way through and sweep through this building. We're following the latest reporting you just mentioned as well.
I think we're all thinking the same thing, Brian.
Shooter, and
that's exactly what.
So far, no update.
That's why the timing of this.
But there are a lot of very worried.
As Testing just said, this looks like Vegas. Remember they were talking about bump stocks around Vegas? Now we're talking about
Stephen, thank you for your reporting. We're getting some new statements now from officials. This is New York's Governor Kathy Hochul. She's posted on X saying, "I've been briefed on an active shooter situation in Midtown Manhattan. Please avoid the area of 52nd Street between Park and 3rd. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino posted on X saying, Bongino, FBI New York field office management personnel and active agents are responding to provide support at the active crime scene in Manhattan." So you have both the FBI and the NYPD on this. On the left hand of your screen, this is the gunman we believe entered 345 Park Avenue on Park between 52nd and 51st around 6 o'clock tonight and started firing. We know at least one civilian and a police officer have been shot. It is still unclear how they're doing tonight. It is our understanding from our Jonathan Deans, who works for NBC New York, that the shooter is down. It's unclear if he shot himself or if he was shot by police, but it appears he somehow got into the building, then was able to access the elevator bank, and then somehow get to at least maybe the 33rd floor. But that, again, this information could all change. It's very fluid. It's what's come in tonight, and the shooting happened around 2 hours ago, less than that. Tom Winter has been on the phone. He's got some new information for us. Tom, what can you tell our viewers?
Yeah, so Tom, we are confirming for New York City. Law enforcement officials say that the shooter is deceased, and deceased as a result of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The NYPD has eyes on the shooter inside of this building, 345 Park Avenue, and now, given the nature of the incident, the fact that his chest appears to be puffed out here, they're not sure why this person did this, what their motive or background is at all.
Dead.
They do not have a name on the individual. And so at this stage of the investigation, they want to be very cautious that there's not anything on him that could further injure police officers.
Any type of explosive is what you're talking about. Yeah,
exactly right. So I would not be shocked if we see the bomb squad show up. That's kind of standard protocol. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's an explosive device. But since this individual, they have eyes on this individual, is deceased, their feeling at this moment is that just take all the time that they need to make sure nobody else gets hurt here. So that's at least the initial indication from the scene. They're trying to identify this person at this point, figure out what they're all about, and if there's any additional information or any additional thing that could be going on associated with this person. That's what they do all the time.
Thank you,
Cautiously and guardedly optimistic about the condition of the police officer, but they're still in the process of treating that officer at the hospital. We know that another civilian has been shot as well, and we're starting to hear about at least one other civilian injury, but I don't know the nature of that injury.
So one shot, maybe somebody else hurt is what you're understanding.
Exactly.
You got to think, I mean, at 6 o'clock, Midtown Manhattan, this building, if this man came in, the amount of people he likely confronted or crossed if he was able to get into the building, get to the elevator bank, get up. But maybe he had his eyes set on a certain target. Maybe he knew what he wanted to do. It's unclear. It looks like he clearly had some of this planned. I mean, to be dressed like this, have the gun like that, and simply stroll in. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he was, you don't know what goes on in the mind of somebody who opens fire like this. And again, these are the photos being provided to us by police through sources, law enforcement sources, is how we're obtaining some of these photos. The police presence is still massive in Midtown Manhattan right now. Areas are blocked off from Park Avenue all the way to 3rd Avenue, and several streets around Midtown Manhattan are paralyzed right now because of the shooting that's happened here, which is incredibly unusual, even in a big city like New York City. For a thing like this to happen, a man walking around with an assault rifle, very strange in Manhattan, even though it is very common in other parts of the country where gun laws are different. In Midtown Manhattan, this is very strange to see something like this. And for this to happen in the building at this time on a Monday, right after at the end of the workday, when people are trying to leave, get back to their homes and their families, the timing of all of this is incredibly suspicious. Tom, as we continue to follow this and monitor this, we've heard from the FBI. We know the FBI is there as well, along with the NYPD. And, there's skyscrapers all over Manhattan. So these teams train for this, just like the firefighters train to work on skyscrapers as well. They'll do a grid search. They'll go floor by floor and make sure that every floor is covered.
Yeah, so not only are you doing a search to make sure there are no other potential victims, that there's not another, a second shooter. There very rarely is a second shooter in these incidents. But one of the other things that you're going to do is you now are in a part of an active investigation. Did anybody help this individual get this gun? Is there anybody else that they need to be looking for, keeping an eye out for? And so there's also the evidence collection component of this. You're seeing the FBI respond, not because the NYPD doesn't have the resources.
Let me just say this. There's another component of this that these guys here aren't talking about. Maybe they don't know about it, but there is, I took a screenshot of it a second ago. Let me see if I can pull it back up. But they are saying, let's see, where is it? 2 killed, where is it? I took a screenshot, so I'll have to find that, and I'll put it on screen, but I'll go back to the volume here. But there's a couple. There's a man and a woman. Here it is. See, now they've changed it. But there is a man and woman in custody. One guy's wearing a Palestinian shirt, and the woman looks like she's wearing a skirt, and I can't tell what else. But they were arrested like a little while ago, like 20 minutes ago, and they cite this instance. So something else is going on. Again, And I'm not even including the suspect nature of how this is looking right now as far as the setup. Let me bring the volume back up and let you guys watch.
WNBC's helicopter of now multiple blocks that have been cordoned off. So that's to be able to get emergency personnel in and out of this location. It's to safely be able to evacuate people and to, if there's anybody else that's been injured or anybody else that's been shot, to be able to remove them from the building safely. So that's at least the information that we have at this time. Obviously, Tom, been quite an incident here in New York City.
Yeah, and buildings all across Manhattan and probably all across the country are going to try to fortify, I'm sure, their security after this incident once we know more about what happened. Again, a lot of these buildings have very strong security. You come in through those sort of doors, and then there is usually a security desk that prevents you from getting to the elevator banks where people are working. But sometimes there's not. So it's unclear what this building had. They had a lot of big companies here, including, like we said, the investment giant, Blackstone, along with the NFL and along with other companies. That's going to do it for our coverage right now. We're going to stay on top of this story. I'm Tom Llamas for Top Story. More news on the way.
All right, let me pull, since these guys are leaving, I did have another one over here.
Good evening. We are starting with breaking news and live pictures out of New York City. This is a massive police response to a shooting in the heart of Midtown Manhattan. Sources telling us a gunman with some sort of long rifle or assault rifle opened fire at a skyscraper along Park Avenue, and at least one police officer and a civilian have been shot. We are also hearing the gunman may have also been shot, possibly from a self-inflicted gunshot wound after making it all the way to the 32nd or 33rd floor of that skyscraper. Again, an overwhelming police presence in the area that has now been locked down for several blocks, people being told to shelter in place. And we are also getting our first look at the shooter from surveillance video nearby. There it is right there. A man you see walking with sunglasses, carrying what looks like that assault rifle with a pretty long magazine there and some sort of possibly tactical strap, walking towards the building. Former FBI Supervisor Rob D'Amico is with us right now. Rob, you've been watching the coverage for the last hour or so. It does look like the tension has subsided a little bit as we are now hearing from NYPD that the suspect has been neutralized. But what do you see in here?
Yeah, that's what I'm starting to hear myself, and that it was one shooter and not multiple shooters. Again, when social media first started pushing this out, there was rumors of possible multiple shooters. That happens a lot on these because, again, the sound of gunfire ricocheting off things and witnesses running, not seeing everything. So they really had to determine, in fact, if it was one shooter, and then again, that he neutralized him with the self-inflicted gunshot wound. I'm hearing on the 33rd floor. And now you're starting to see a very slow, organized, I think, de-escalation where they're starting to bring people out that were locked down, but they have to do it very orderly, probably floor by floor. Each floor has a different plan if they're going to use an elevator, if they're going to use a stairwell, depending on what floor. They don't want to disturb crime scenes. So if the shooter did anything on any other floor besides the 33rd, if in fact that's where he did the self-inflicted gunshot wound, if he did anything else, they're going to have to lock that down as a crime scene. So again, now they can take their time, though. They're confident that the sole shooter is down and neutralized, and now to start bringing people out. Communication is a big part. These people are very panicked. Some people aren't thinking clearly. They need to have someone in the hallways, down the hall, what elevator to go on. So every time that someone has to make a decision, someone's there to reinforce. Go down to the next hallway, make a right. You'll see someone there, and they'll tell you. So, and they're probably going to be coming out single file. Again, that's everyone. Every time you do this, you don't want to see like people running out and panicking. So you tell them just walk calm, walk in single file, and it produces calm across the board.
And Rob, right now that we know that the threat has been neutralized, the big question, especially for people that are watching that have loved ones in that area or possibly in that building, is how many people may have been victims here, right? We understand that one officer, possibly an NYPD officer who was working a detail at the time, was hurt, and then also a civilian outside. But those were the initial reports. When you see he's made it to the 32nd, 33rd floor, how long is it going to be before we have an update on potential victims here?
I think shortly. NYPD is very good at taking situations like this, and they know one of the big ones is to get initial communications out. In fact, what they had, what's going on, because they don't want rumors to fly. They really want to end that social media, fire of, multiple shooters and how many people were injured. They want to come out. They may not be able to give specifics. They're not going to give anything besides we have 2 casualties, including 1 police officer, something along those lines. And maybe, somewhat critical condition or sent to the hospital.
Like he shot
but they do
multiple
really want
times.
to calm that down to a point, get that word out. So I think it's going to be fairly soon when you start to hear about this. And then again, if you're on the ground, seeing where the EMTs are going,
That's
always
his
kind of
signal,
can
not
lend
mine.
something. If you see an EMTs are going into the building with stretchers and with emergency medical kits, then there may be something more inside the building besides the ones just outside.
And I mean, hearing that he made it as high as the 33rd floor or 32nd floor, like, what does that tell you about what happened in those final moments? Rob, do we still have you?
I think we lost.
Hey, Rob, I'm not sure if you lost us there.
Do you have it?
Rob, I'm not sure if you can hear us. It looks like we might be having some technical difficulties, but if you can hear me, the fact that he made it so high up that skyscraper, what does that tell you about that?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah. Can you hear me okay? Rob,
Rob's gone, man.
do you hear me? It looks like we have lost Rob D'Amico momentarily. We're going to try to get him back on the phone here as we watch the developments on your screen. We know at least 1 officer, 1 civilian have been shot on the streets of New York. This is happening in Midtown Manhattan. We understand this building, the building where an active shooter went inside and possibly made it as high as the 32nd or 33rd floor, was a building that housed the NFL, KPMG, Blackstone, Deutsche Bank was also a tenant of that building. At this point, we still don't know exactly what that active shooter was doing in that building, if they were targeting any of those businesses, or possibly this is an incident of workplace violence. All we know is that picture down there shows a man in sunglasses carrying an assault rifle, what looks like a pretty long magazine, maybe a 30-round magazine, and possibly something on the end of that assault rifle and a tactical a strap. He's making his way towards that building. We understand it's 345 Park Avenue. This is in between 52nd, 51st Street. We're also being told that active shooter may have possibly ended his life on the 32nd or 33rd floor. It's unclear if there was a barricade situation, but that's what we're hearing from NYPD and sources right now. We're also monitoring the latest from our affiliate, NBC in New York. They've got a live reporter right now on the perimeter. I'm not sure if we have them, if we can pop them up right now. Yeah, it looks like we don't have that source coming in just now. So again, if you are tuning in, we are following this breaking news out of Midtown Manhattan. At least 2 people have been shot. We're awaiting any sort of update from NYPD in terms of how many other people may have been shot. Those were the initial reports that came in. We also understand that the shooter has been neutralized, as NYPD is put it. We understand that it might have been a self-inflicted gunshot wound in the higher floors of that building. Again, this is happening on Park Avenue, 345 Park Avenue. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, right now posting on X, our U.S. Attorney in New York has set up a command post to assist with the shooting in New York. Local FBI agents on the scene. When it comes to the victims, we understand that one of them was a NYPD officer. The condition at this point is unknown, but we understand they were working a paid detail, so it's not clear exactly what that paid detail entailed. But we also hearing that there was another victim that was hit in this as well. And at this point, we are in a holding pattern, waiting to hear if there are any updates on the victims, the condition of those two victims. I believe we have reestablished a connection with Rob D'Amico here. Rob, I was asking you before we got cut off there. I mean, the fact that the shooter, you know, if you've been to buildings in any part of Manhattan, security is very tight. So the fact that he was able to make it to one of these higher floors, what does that tell you?
Well, security is in the fact electronics. They normally take a badge to get on the elevator to go to certain floors. Though I don't think the security in the lobby is going to stop someone with an AR-15 with a vest on. I heard he had a vest on. So he comes in with an AR-15. Unless you're an armed police officer, because there really aren't a lot of armed security guards in New York. Most of them are civilian police officers. We heard that one was working at detail. But if he comes in with an AR-15, he can get past them. But normally, again, the elevator banks take a certain badge to get on a floor. That may be indicative that he had a badge to get him to a certain floor. That's my first thought on that, because I was just actually up in New York at 30 Rock visiting NBC and MSNBC. And I had to get a badge to go everywhere and be escorted. And buildings like this, NFL's in there, Blackstone's in there. Those are top companies that have security, and you can't get to their floors without having the correct badge. So I think that may lend itself to he may have worked there or somehow had a badge in order to get on an elevator to get to the 33rd floor, because I don't think he ran up the stairs.
And Rob, if we can pull up that picture of the suspect walking in right now from that surveillance video, I mean, to your trained eye, it does, I mean, assault rifle, a long magazine, 30 rounds, what do you see here?
Yeah, I first looked at it and it looks like an AR type semi-automatic. It has a standard 30-round magazine. It actually looked like it may have had a suppressor. I can't really tell. It's a little blurry, but it looks a little fatter on the end of the muzzle, which may be a suppressor or some type of what we call can that can reduce the noise. And it looks like a strap. So again, he's kind of in the suit, and then he's got this assault rifle. And how does he walk through the streets without people noticing? But it's New York. People just walk. People may have blown it off. He may have been so cavalier about it. He may have just got out of an Uber where he had it in a bag and jumped out and started walking, and they took this picture. People may have been clearing when they saw him. Again, that one still photo just shows he is going in with some purpose, and he wasn't afraid for anyone to see that he had an assault rifle.
And how soon is it going to be after this? Because it does look, eerily casual that he's walking up to that building. We don't know if there was a shooting that happened in front of the building and then he went inside, or there were shootings inside of the building. But how fast is the response time in Midtown Manhattan for some sort of active shooting like this?
I think it's pretty quick. Again, I was just up there and I was amazed by how many police officers I saw on every block. Though they're regular patrol officers. The one thing, he has an assault rifle. Most police vests, that round goes right through them. They're not made to stop assault rifles. They're made to stop pistol rounds. You have to have like something on the ESU or a SWAT team that has metal plates or ceramic plates that's a level 4 that can stop an assault round. And that's usually only a small area, like right in the center of your chest, so you protect your vitals. If he had a vest on, which I'd heard in the beginning, again, that's social media, that's initially what came out. If he had a vest on, that could stop a patrolman's round, the 9mm round that most of those police officers carry. That can stop it in the vital area. So he has protection on, and the weapon he has will go right through a patrolman's vest. So until ESU gets there that has bullet plates in it, that weapon can go right through a police officer's body armor.
Rob D'Amico, we really appreciate your insight into all of this. I hope you stand by for us. We've also got Tom Winter, NBC's Tom Winter, who has been working the phones, talking to sources about what we're seeing happen just down the street from 30 Rock. Tom, what's the latest on the investigation here?
Yeah, so Gotti, this incident happens at approximately 6:30 p.m. Tonight. A NYPD officer working a what's called a detailed, meaning that they were assigned to a specific location, being paid not on their normal patrol shift, but detailed to a specific spot. Apparently, was shot in the course of this incident. There's been at least one other individual that's been shot. It has been a difficult night for all of those involved. We do not yet have conditions on the parties that have been shot. We know that there's at least one other civilian that's been injured. We are now unfortunately hearing, Gotti, that those numbers are expected to climb as far as those that have been injured at a minimum as a result of this shooting incident. The person that the NYPD had been looking for in connection with this, they believe is dead as a result of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. They're in the process of conducting this investigation. We do not have a name on or off the record of the individual that they believe is responsible for this. The person they've been looking for is that image that's located directly below me, right down here, and that's the person that was captured on surveillance video entering the building. You're looking at the kind of the wider surveillance video, and then because of the technology of these cameras these days, they're able to put that person in kind of a zoom box and give us a more detailed photograph of this person. So that's the information that we've received at this hour. It is a rapidly developing situation. The information I'm sharing with you is preliminary and subject to change, but obviously something that's got law enforcement here in New York City very concerned about this. The police commissioner saying that that individual's been neutralized, her words, and that the FBI is also prepared and has actually responded to the scene, prepared to help if need be. And so everybody at the NYPD, from their intelligence bureau to the patrol officers that are there on the scene, is acutely aware of this. They're still in the course of evacuating the building. They're taking that floor by floor, office by office. They've been removing people through elevators, through the stairwells, and they've been able to evacuate them out one side of the building. Understandably, I think, Gotti, I'm not going to share a lot of details about that process, just to out of an abundance of caution. One, to make sure nobody else is injured tonight, and to let those folks get out of that building safely. There's a number of blocks that are frozen pretty much just east of the building. I know you're familiar with the area, but if I was to walk out of the room that I'm in, broadcasting to you from, go out our office doors here and head east, we would run into St. Patrick's Cathedral. It's just beyond that, and a little further north, it's completely cordoned off. So this is a very busy commercial district. This is the heart of New York City, frankly, and there's been an active shooter tonight. That's something that the NYPD is trained for. That's why you saw those officers running in. You're looking at the video right now. They are trained. I've been on the NYPD active shooting training exercises. They're told to just not wait, to rush towards the gunfire and go. The incident, according to some of the preliminary information that I've received, basically once the shooting happened, they started calling all of the SRG units, the Strategic Response Group. This was put into play after some of the terrorism incidents in Europe. The NYPD Commissioner Bratton at the time, others, realizing that kind of the next threat may not be those large-scale terror attacks we saw in 9/11, but an active shooter. So that's who responded to this. It will continue to get you the details, Gotti, as they come in.
I appreciate that. And it seems like our colleague Jonathan Dienst over at WNBC, he's got some new reporting that the civilian shot may have been working as an accountant, possibly in the building. Their condition is unknown. Again, these are all details that are still coming in. It's very, very preliminary. But do you know more about the officer that was shot here?
We don't have, Tom, the reason why we're not saying any additional information about the officer, that officer, like the individual who was shot here, they have families, and I think out of respect to them and the ability for the NYPD to directly communicate with them is paramount. So we'll just leave it at the details that I shared with you. A detail officer working in this particular area that was shot as a result.
Got it. Tom, we're going to be checking back with you in just a bit. We understand Steve Romo, you just saw a shot of Stephen Romo. He is now at the scene. Steve, can you tell us what's it looking like from your vantage point?
Yeah, Gotti, as you can imagine, a chaotic situation. Some relief in the crowd getting that news that this suspected the shooter has been neutralized. You can see that the traffic, though, is still closed on this block. We actually just saw some office workers who have been released from their building, many of them being told to shelter in place, now able to finally walk out, clearly in relief that they were able to leave their office building right now. So you mentioned just where this building is, you and Tom Winter. This is a massive building. It takes up this entire city block, the NFL and other major corporations working there. There's also a bank branch, just normal everyday people living their lives. And then all of a sudden they get the breaking news about this happening. So as you can see, we keep moving. So police officers, there are still more vehicles coming in and out from this investigation. You know, the FBI, Pam Bondi just mentioning more federal officials are located there as well, involved in this investigation to try to get this latest information. The crowds, though, there have been just talking to people trying to make my way over here, hearing that there was a shooter on the loose in Midtown Manhattan at this rush hour. You can imagine the type of panic that caused. Many people are scared, trying to avoid the area. Others were trying to make their way over either because they know someone who works there or they're just curious to know what exactly is going on. Again, there is a bit of relief knowing that suspect has been neutralized, but still people, of course, want answers as to why this happened, to know if this person was working alone. And a lot of those questions are the ones we're waiting for as well, Gotti.
And Stephen, as we're looking at that image of the shooter on his way into the building, do we have any word on whether there was a shooting on the street and then he made his way inside, or did all of the shooting happen inside of what we believe to be 345 Park Avenue?
Right, 345 Park Avenue, quite a ways down. They have us blocked off pretty far, Gotti. No information that we've been able to gather on the scene about a shooting on the street. We have heard that as well. Just talking to people briefly here, no one that I've been able to talk to was actually at that location at the time, and they couldn't speak to it. But it's another one of the many questions that people have.
And in terms of the people that you've been talking to, we've already seen on social media all kinds of confusion, a lot of, false information about other arrests that may have been made on the streets that were unrelated to what we're seeing at that building. But is there a lot of confusion among the people that you've been speaking with?
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking to a woman as I was crossing the street here. She was telling me that she was asking me what was going on if I knew, and saying that Twitter is a great, or X is a great use of information, getting information out. But she saw some information that she found out was not correct at that same time. And like we have so often now, there are people who are here to protest the NYPD as well, making it even more chaotic here for people who genuinely want to know what's going on in their neighborhood or in their workplace or with their coworkers, to know that they're safe, Gotti. It's a very chaotic situation.
Stephen Romo, really appreciate the scene from the ground down there in Midtown Manhattan. We've also got Rob D'Amico. He is still standing by. Rob, we were just chatting with Tom Winter. You know, the fear is that as the police make their way up that building, there could be other victims that they find. We were just talking about the possible timeline here on how long it could be before we hear if there are any other victims besides the one officer that we know of and a possible civilian. But how soon do you think it will take for them to adequately clear that entire building?
It can take a while because there's so many floors, but I think probably by now, they have the floors that he was on. If there's other victims up there, they're attending to them. They're getting them ready to transport if that's the situation. Depending on how far that the media is cleared out, you may not see EMT folks coming out with other victims, or if the victim is obviously deceased, then they're going to stay in place. So it could be a little bit, but again, NYPD is really good at getting information out. They understand, one, it's a big city. They understand that social media and the frenzy that starts going out. So they want to get as much information out as they can, but they want to do it correctly. And an exact number of victims isn't a priority right now. It's getting everyone out. It's getting them in touch with their next of kin so that there's no panic and people rushing to it. And people do panic when they can't get a hold of their next of kin. So they want to start doing that. And again, any medical attention is the ultimate priority right now. Then getting everyone out calmly and safely is the next one. But someone was asking me again when I was telling them that assault rifles are so much more deadly, and someone asked if it was because the number of rounds, and it's actually not. The round itself is much more destructive and is much more deadly than a pistol round. So again, when someone is shooting an assault rifle, those rounds itself, it's not the number of rounds, those rounds itself do so much more destruction to the human body that they're more deadly than the pistol round. So again, the EMTs are having to deal with that.
And Rob, in terms of the investigation, look, take us into what an investigation looks like as soon as an image like that comes into the FBI or comes into NYPD. Are they able to identify that person very quickly? And how soon is it before they're able to start looking into some of their social media footprints and then possibly phone records or those kind of things?
Yeah, they're using facial recognition. They're also probably right now checking with the security folks in the companies that are in that building to see if they have badges that they can, again, look to see if that person in fact worked there or not. They're starting to do that. That's what the detectives, they're relaying stuff back, and people back in the offices are really starting to grind on that with the computers. And then again, if the victim's deceased, you look for the driver's license. It's the nearest thing that you want to do. And then you want to try to get the phone because if it's unlocked, you want to keep it unlocked, but you want it in the detective's hands. You want, the gloves on, but you still want to be able to keep that phone unlocked so that the folks from the digital exploitation unit can start doing their thing to the phone, again, to start looking at social media. And once they have an identification, they're going to start looking at all his social media, his Facebook and his Instagram. Did he post anything? And they're going to start looking at that. Once you get in the phone, again, you're going to get the phone number. You can search social media by phone number and email, and they're going to start doing that. Because, again, even though he's deceased and is probably not going to trial, you still want to find out what the motivation was. Did someone actually, in fact, help him along the way that may have knew about what he was going to do? Those are additional charges. But again, you want to start looking at the social media to try to figure out what was going through his mind when he in fact did this.
And in terms of the officer that was hit, do you have any information on what the detail he might have been on was? Is it something that he's doing in the after hours, in his after hours, or I mean, is he still in full capacity as an NYPD officer?
So normally when I hear detail, it means that there are privately hired by, it could be a company that wants police officers in a certain location for something. I've seen them for something like there's a board meeting and they want additional police officers, or in general, they just want more police officers around that. So they're willing to pay the overtime that these police officers will work. That's normally what I think of when I hear detail, but they do still have full police officer capability. They're still technically, if they see a crime, that they have to relate to it, to act on it as they would a police officer, because they can't override that duty as a police officer. But they're normally in a area that's confined to who's ever hired them. I used to hire police officers all the time for special events. You have security, but then you have police officers, because a person in uniform, or even if they're not in uniform, they're again, in New York, it's harder to get armed security guards, and they also don't have the same training. So sometimes you hire off-duty police officers on the detail. They have the training, they're qualified on the weapon, and they can just work for you for, say, 8 hours or 6 hours, whatever the shift is.
And when it comes to armed detail or armed security of any kind inside of that building, I mean, NFL, Deutsche Bank, Blackstone, KPMG, I imagine those corporations had some very robust security detail inside. When something like this happens, how does it all go down with different security details inside a building like that, and then officers coming in?
Yeah, I've done security assessments. I've actually been in the NFL offices, but I've done security assessments for corporations. And when you're in a building like that, a shared building, your security is at your entry points. They normally try to keep it to one entry point. There you have a receptionist, but you have security. And some of these, the CEOs of some of these big companies have their own executive protection details. And they usually sit, again, right where you come into the office, and then they sit by the CEO or the chairman's desk, office, and they have procedures so that if something like this happens, they get their protectee in a safe place. They lock down the doors. They put, a lot of them are armed. They put their armed security at the entryway to make sure that no one's coming in that's a threat. So they have procedures. They probably have safe rooms for people where they can go, and the security falls on top of it. So each of the companies that are in that building probably have their own security, and then you probably have some executive protection details in there for some of the CEOs and other chairmen or the commissioner of the NFL type of thing.
And in terms of that executive protection, I mean, what are their capabilities in a situation like this?
A lot of them are off-duty police officers, retired police officers, retired military, retired SEALs, special forces guys. I've worked with a ton of them, and it depends. Some of them just come up through security, but some of them are very well trained, and they've done it a long time. It's kind of a lifestyle, and then they have details in different types of people. Some of the big executives, you talk about Elon Musk. And he may have a 30-man detail when he moves. You have drivers, you have people, securing outside rooms. Some of them get very large, depending on the person securing. Some of the details are just maybe 2 or 3 guys. Some CEOs will have one person with them. They'll have a driver that's security that's trained in evasive driving, and then they have one guy walking with them. Some of them have more. So it really depends on the company. And some of the companies, the boards actually require CEOs to have executive protection, because you look at when a company's CEO gets injured or something bad happens to them, the stock can actually fall and other things. So some of these companies actually require CEOs to have executive protection. Some of it, like, we'll bring them to the office. They'll be there in the office. They bring them home. They put him away for the night, and he's not going out, and then they pick him back up. All of them are different. Some of them, like I said, are very, very good.
Thank you so much, Rob D'Amico. We're going to be checking back with you in a little while. We've also got former ATF Special Agent in Charge, Jim Cavanaugh, with us now. Jim, we've watched so many of these things unfold, and yet every single one of them is different. What are you seeing when you see these images on your screen?
Yeah, just horrible. Feeling for everybody in New York and that officer and the injured, and hoping that we're not going to hear higher numbers, God. I hope it's going to be low numbers. But what it seems to have unfolded is this guy makes his egress into the building, as we see in the photograph, at full stride with the rifle down low. This is an AR-15 variant, 30-round magazine. Looks like some kind of a muzzle flash wrapped in tape or suppressor maybe. He's got a sling for it. He could sling it over his shoulder. It looks to me that the blue jacket he's wearing, maybe in his right pocket, he's got a couple of extra magazines or a handgun. It looks to be riding a little low. And in ATF, we watch a lot of armed people. That was our life. So, maybe that's what that is. It's hard to tell in just that one photograph. But if you could see the video of it, you probably could discern if that right part of that jacket was drooping a little bit. But when you confront, if the officer confronted him in the first floor in the kiosk where normally the security would be, the rifle's going to win. The rifle's going to win against the pistol. I mean, most of the time, that's the way the outcome's going to be. And we know from the facts that the assailant, who's now deceased, made it up to the 32nd floor. We don't know where the officer was. We don't know if he was on the 32nd floor or if he was in the lobby. But it appears that he got past the officer. So he shot the officer with a rifle, and then he got past the officer at some point, at some way, to be able to kill himself. Now, was he trying to get onto the 33rd floor? Well, I think we have to analyze this when we look at shooters and killers and motives. If this guy was just out for just mass murder of anyone, he's in Manhattan on the street. I mean, it's crowded with people. It's always crowded with people. He could shoot all kinds of people if he wanted to on the street. But yet he strides to this building with the rifle low, like he's not yet confronted who he wants to confront. He's not yet reached the point of confrontation. And that's the way he's walking. So I think he had a purpose and a reason to go to this building. Now, it may be that he had a direct connection with someone in there, and maybe even on the 32nd floor. Maybe he worked there, fired, boyfriend, girlfriend, domestic, hated somebody, could be revenge. There's a lot of things it could be. But he's going there for a specific reason in his mind. Now, you know, it could be something simple. He could only get to that floor because of the way the elevators were locked. But it's hard for me to believe that he's never been in this building at all, and he made it to the 33rd floor. So maybe it's possible. We don't know for sure yet. We got to hear from Tom Winter and the NBC reporters, but you know, maybe that officer was shot in the lobby, and then this guy made it up to the 32nd floor, and he killed himself. Now, you know, what we're worried about is did he shoot or injure anybody else? How many rounds did he have with him? The rifle magazine that's sticking out, Gotti, that's a 30-round magazine, pretty standard. Doesn't mean it's full, but, you know, likely it is. That's what the shooters do. And if he has a couple extra in his coat pocket, I mean, he could easily be carrying 90, 120 rounds with him easily. So he could do a lot of damage if he can, find the people he wants to hurt.
And Jim, I mean, it's such a good point that you make about, there are so many potential targets on the streets of New York. It's one of the most populous places on earth. And yet, when you see this picture here from your trained eye, it looks like his chest is up. It looks like I mean, how would you describe what you're seeing here? It doesn't look like this is someone that's afraid or nervous. And again, this is just from a single picture. We don't have the full video, but from your trained eye, what do you see here?
Trained eye.
Well, so I see, and so many of these things are a result of a suicidal ideation. And in fact, we know as a fact that he committed suicide because the police have told us he shot himself and he's dead. So we know that. And so when we add the facts in here, we can see that's just what it looks like. It looks like a guy that's suicidal. He knows what's going to happen when he goes in there. That's why he's not afraid. He's suicidal. He's not fearing dying. He wants to die. And he's strolling in there to get to the person or persons he wants to hurt. We say, well, what could be the motive? What could be the motive? The person maybe, have this or this. Everybody has a motive. There's no killing. They all have a motive. Even someone who's under severe distress,
Why do they blame the gun?
they still have a motive. There's always a motive. We don't always find out the motive, or the motive's not always as clear to us, Gotti, as we'd like it to be, but it's always there. And we can take motive too from targeting and planning and purpose and history that's going to come out and unfold when the NYPD detectives get all the background of this guy. Of course, what they're faced with is the bomb squad's going to have to send a robot in there and kind of pull off his shirt and make sure that he's not wired up and everything. And they're going to have to do the same thing if he had a vehicle and arrived there and it's on this Manhattan street or, back at his home, wherever that may be, will have to be searched also by bomb squad officers and bomb-trained ATF and FBI agents. So they make sure that nobody else gets injured, because when a guy's on a suicidal plot, he can also leave things behind, to harm others. And sometimes you find relatives or friends that are injured or murdered at the location as well. So you can't waste time getting back there, because sometimes the first violence is at home and then they go on their mission. But yeah, it's a good point what you're saying there, because you're seeing it as a reporter, what does this tell you? But I think it tells you his purpose. And when we look at the facts we have, I think it tells you it's a suicide. It's a suicide. And it's a suicide with, a homicidal suicide. That's what it is. And that's what he knew how it was going to end. Now, what I'm curious to find out is, did he want it to end on the 32nd floor? Was that of importance to him? You know, I don't know. It may or may not be. It's interesting, but sometimes they get to the place, you know, the place they want to get to die. To, you know, maybe it was the place that they had their angst at or their revenge at or something, but not necessarily so. But it'll be interesting to find out if there was a purpose for him to be on that particular floor in that giant building, you know, with a rifle. You would assume he could, you know, make his way on a stairwell and go to different floors, get on a different elevator. He must have had a code or a card. He must have had some way to get around in those buildings, as you know, and people that live in Manhattan or other big cities know. Sometimes it's not so easy to just go on those elevators and go wherever you want.
Jim, you know, and there's another timeline that's happening right now, and that is the timeline of getting information out as quickly as possible in this age of rumors spreading almost unchecked. If you're just joining us right now, on the bottom right of your screen, you are seeing the pictures of what NYPD and what our sources have been characterizing as the lone shooter in this active shooting. Again, this suspect, this gunman that you see walking into 345 Park Avenue, he is deceased from a self-inflicted gunshot wound on possibly the 32nd floor. But Jim, online, you know, rumors have been circulating and somewhat unchecked. I've seen, you know, things happening on the streets of New York in all of this chaos where people have been saying that there were other people involved or there's another suspect that was taken into custody. How critical is it for NYPD to get information out and get some of the details that we've been asking out to the public in the next few hours or so?
Yeah, really, they got to get out there. I mean, they have a great public affairs unit. They need to get out there because you stop a lot of those rumors from spreading around. At every one of these shootings, when I was involved with them as a law enforcement officer, when I'd go to them or when, you know, we reported on them over the years, you always get reports of multiple shooters. I never had when I was on, we didn't get reports of multiple shooters when we were there trying to arrest someone. Because what happens is the public sees a plainclothes officer or agent get out of an unmarked car with a rifle, and that agent or detective is responding, and they see that and they call it in as another shooter. Or, you know, shots echo or sound different in an alley, a building, a street. And so there's all these reports. The people, the witnesses are trying to help, and we want their help. But the officers and the commanders on the scene, Gotti, they try to assess that, then not just say, oh, there's multiple shooters. You know, that's why, though, they're still sweeping the building because they want to be absolutely sure, but they're not running off half-cocked. I mean, NYPD knows pretty sure this is the lone gunman. And people need to listen to real journalists and not just, you know, wild talk on the internet.
Jim Kavanaugh, we hope you stick around with us because we're going to continue to monitor this. But speaking of those journalists, we have, I believe, Aaron McLaughlin down on the streets of New York as well. Aaron, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but your vantage point, I mean, it seems like you're a little ways back. What are you seeing there?
Hey there, Gotti. Yeah, just over that way is 345 Park Avenue. You can see behind me a very large security presence still in place. I can hear the choppers overhead. We just heard from the New York mayor confirm that multiple people were injured in this attack, that the gunman is dead. We understand from law enforcement authorities that those injured includes at least one civilian and at least one police officer. I can tell you that we're also hearing of just complete chaos that unfolded inside the skyscraper at the time of the shooting. A still from inside the offices show office workers grabbing really anything they could, couches, tables, chairs, to create a barricade to prevent the shooter from entering their place of work. And I was speaking to one man who was standing just where I am right now not long ago. He was waiting. His wife was inside the building. She was being told not to come out. He understood that she was on the 23rd floor, and he was here with the knowledge that there was an active shooter on the presence. Just gives you a sense of sort of the terrifying weight for those not only just inside of the skyscraper, but also their loved ones on the outside waiting for word. And now this news that the gunman, the lone perpetrator, according to the New York mayor is dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Wow. I mean, all of this happening right before rush hour in the hours of rush hour. Is there any indication as to how many people might be in that building? How big is that building? There's the 33rd floor, is the only piece of information that we have. And we also know that it houses the NFL, Blackstone, Deutsche Bank, some other very large multinational corporations. But how many people might still be inside?
I mean, it's unclear at this point. The investigation, as you can tell behind me, Gotti, is still very much underway. It's a 44-story skyscraper home to major companies. It is worth noting, though, that today, of course, is Monday. There are people working from home now on a Monday in New York City. So it's unclear if the skyscraper would have been full of office workers at that time. It happened around 6 p.m. in Midtown. I could tell you, I noticed something unusual was happening here in Midtown when I looked up and I saw a helicopter swooping down not far from 60th Street. And that's when I knew that there was something strange going on in the city. Very unusual to see helicopters flying that low in Midtown. And then sure enough, this active shooter situation was unfolding not far away. And it's very clear from the police presence that you see behind me that they're taking absolutely no chances, that this is a thorough investigation. While the mayor says that this was the work of a lone gunman, they're leaving clearly nothing to chance here tonight, Gotti.
And New York City, there's only one place on planet Earth like it, and it's a place where news travels so fast. I imagine as you were making your way to the scene that you were hearing all kinds of different reports as to what was happening, right?
Oh, absolutely. At that point, we knew that there was an active shooter situation in Midtown Manhattan, something that is extremely unusual for this portion of the city. No further details at the time from police officers. I watched as they were scrambling to set up this security perimeter. It was clear that they were still working to assess the situation. I could hear the police officers monitoring their radios for updates. At that point, they were looking for a perpetrator. It seemed, and then the news came of the self-inflicted gunshot wound not shortly after from inside the building, and yet there were still people outside with their loved ones inside waiting for word of exactly what was going on, if their loved ones were okay. It's certainly a chilling night here in Midtown Manhattan, Gotti.
And speaking of the people that are inside that building, we've also heard that there were some other buildings in that area that were locked down. Do you know if those people have been allowed to leave, or are there still people in the surrounding buildings that are basically sheltering in place?
It's really unclear what you're. Yeah, it's really unclear. What you can see here is a very tight security perimeter. You can see they're only allowing law enforcement vehicles towards 345 Park Avenue. From the vantage point where I'm standing right now, it's unclear how far this perimeter extends, but I can tell you it is an extensive perimeter. This is what we would classify as a gold standard response to a situation in which authorities are still trying to assess exactly what took place. We know that, again, that this was a lone perpetrator, a lone gunman, but was he acting in coordination with anyone else? I think that is an open question that authorities seemingly are trying to get to the bottom of. But again, we're waiting for more word from authorities on exactly the nature of their clearly ongoing investigation, Gotti.
Aaron McLaughlin down there in Manhattan. Aaron, thank you. And I believe our colleague Steve Romo is also nearby, and he's been speaking to witnesses. In fact, I believe he may be speaking to a witness right now. Stephen, if you can hear us, what are witnesses saying?
Yeah, Gotti, we've been able to speak to a couple people who actually were closer to the building and have information. They have the eyewitnesses themselves. We actually have Nikisha Lewis here, who's shared just a harrowing situation with us. Nikisha, thank you for sticking around. If you wouldn't mind, just repeat what you told me just a minute ago, what you witnessed.
We were in the plaza having dinner. The plaza of the NFL headquarters and Blackstone is also a nice gathering place for folks who want to have dinner in the evenings. As we were eating and talking amongst ourselves, we heard the shots, and I looked up and I saw the first wall of the first floor shatter, and I realized, oh my God, this is a shootout. It felt like you were in a war zone almost. And I saw a worker run out, but he was running so frantically, I thought he was just trying to get away. By the time he got to us, he said, "Help, help, I've been shot." And I turned to my left and looked at him and saw he had a wound in his back. And my partner, who was ahead of me, had also looked at him and seen that he had a wound, what looked like an entry wound or exit wound in the front. So it might have gone all the way through. So he helped him down, told him to get his backpack off, and we both just ran, and the police took over from there. But it's been literally like the most just scary situation I've ever been in. I've cried at least 3 times since.
I'm sorry, I can't imagine what it's like to witness something like that. Did you hear any more gunfire after that?
Just that initial round, nothing afterward. It felt like it was a shootout, like multiple people were shooting.
What was the response around you? Did other people realize what was happening?
Very, very quickly, because it was such rapid fire, like a heavy duty gun or something was involved. So everyone just ran, and then there was a very quick police response. Every agency possible in the city. So they quickly barricaded the area and told us to keep going further and further back. So we kept getting pushed further down the street.
Did the police say anything to you besides that, besides moving you out of the area?
No, but being as inquisitive as I am, I recently, like 5 minutes ago, asked a police officer if this police officer who I saw, if he had died. Like, I did see 3 people being carried out.
They say he died.
Like, almost looking very, very lifeless, or they were looking limp. And I'd asked if the police officer was dead, and she said, the female police officer said she's not aware that he is dead.
One of them
Terrifying.
died.
I'm sorry that you witnessed that. Do you know other people in the area, or were you just eating lunch there?
Yes, all of our friends, we have a friend group, and we always either have breakfast or dinner in the area. But I just want to say, for the family of that first person who ran out, he looked like he was running to make sure that he makes it home to his family. And he's probably one of the bravest people I've ever seen. Like, he didn't stop until he got to us before he was like, okay, I can't go any further.
Extremely brave of him, and extremely brave of you to reach out and try to help someone in a situation like that. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Ms. Lewis. We certainly appreciate it. And Gotti, as you can imagine, there's going to be many more stories like this that will come out. People who witness different things, as police, and now we know federal officials as well, are trying to piece together the timeline of what happened and to try to figure out what exactly took place today, Gotti.
Yeah, when we see the worst of humanity, we often see the best of people, the best of New York right there in that interview, Stephen Romo. And just to recap, did she say she saw 3 people being pulled out or being carried out of that building? Because we're trying to nail down a little bit more about the victims. We know that 2, an officer and a civilian, but how many did she say she saw?
Yeah, she did say 3, Gotti. That's something else that I noticed from speaking with other people as well, of trying to figure out who actually was injured or who was actually just trying to get away and weren't able to get away themselves and sort of may have collapsed or just panicked and didn't know what to do. So it's hard to nail down exactly what people saw versus what police are actually reporting as shooting victims. And as you know very well, the numbers in these situations can continue to fluctuate, but that is the number that she told us. And I'm sure that police are interviewing other witnesses who saw similar things to try to piece that together as well.
And as we're talking about that, I believe that video that we're seeing, it does look like there is a contingent of police officers that were rushing in, and they were extracting somebody. They were pulling somebody out and carrying them to safety. What else are you hearing there on the scene? Are there a lot of people there that are trying to get information from their family that are still in that building?
There were around a half an hour ago, but the situation the NYPD is saying is contained. So it seems like now most of the people that are here are spectators, or they saw something and they want to, in that situation, they want to see how this ends up. Other people are, this is their neighborhood. This is where they work. This is the area they walk through every day. So they're curious about what's going on. We did speak to several people who were leaving buildings around, not the building on Park in particular, but other buildings nearby, people who were locked down. One woman was telling me that people in her office were barricading doors with any object that they can find to try to keep a shooter out. Everyone, or most everyone, is familiar now with what to do in an active shooter situation. That was the information that they had at the time, that there was an active shooter. So they thought, I need to barricade to stay safe. Then they started getting more information, and finally they saw that news of this suspected shooter with a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and they had some relief, and then they still waited for police officers to tell them it was okay to leave. But in that situation, speaking to people, they are just so shaken when they come out, and they're asking which streets are closed and if they're able to get a cab on this street. People trying to leave to get out of that situation. It seems like most of those people have been able to make their way out from what I can see, but there are still a lot of people here, a lot of very curious people here to know more about what happened.
Yeah, Stephen Romo, thank you so much for that. We'll be checking back with you in a little bit. I know Erin McLaughlin is probably a few blocks or pretty close to where you are right now. She's also been out there speaking to victims, or speaking to witnesses. Erin, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but from your vantage point, what's the latest from the scene?
Yeah, well, we are now hearing, Gotti, that occupants from some of the surrounding buildings near the scene of the shooting are being allowed to leave, are being allowed to go home. As you can see here, it's still pretty chaotic here in Midtown Manhattan. Just over that way is 345 Park Avenue, the building, the site of the shooting. The situation here is still extremely intense. It's clear that the investigation is underway. You can just see the amount of police officers and firefighters and other units that were deployed. This was very much an all hands on deck response to this active shooting situation, a situation that is extremely unusual here for Midtown Manhattan. But as my colleague Stephen Romo pointed out, it is something that people do now have in the back of their minds. It was around 6 p.m. in the evening when all of this unfolded, news got out of this active shooter situation. I arrived here as they were setting up the barricades, as a manhunt was underway for the gunman. Now to hear that gunman killed himself inside the building, certainly people here in Midtown Manhattan are breathing a sigh of relief at that news. Still, it's a very chilling incident. We're still trying to understand how many casualties, how many people were shot. We understand that at least one civilian and at least one police officer were shot as a result of what happened here. We're getting harrowing stories from inside of 345 Park Avenue, including pictures of office workers doing everything they could to survive, taking desks, taking couches, taking chairs, creating a barricade to prevent the shooter from potentially entering their place of work. Just chilling details. I was speaking to one man who was here trying to listen to the police radio for updates as that manhunt was underway. He wanted news of his wife. He knew his wife worked on the 23rd floor of 345 Park Avenue. And he wanted to know if she was okay. And it was a very, very tense hour-long wait for that news. Finally, she was able to text him that she was fine. He could breathe a sigh of relief. They have now gone home, but it just gives you a sense of this disruption, of the terror that people felt here in Midtown Manhattan tonight, Gotti.
And in terms of some of those harrowing stories that you're hearing about from inside of the building, the barricading, what did people do in that building?
Well, we have obtained a still footage from inside one of the offices. This was a very large building, 44 stories, a place of work for hundreds potentially. And it showed very clearly the chaos and the panic inside. In one still image, you can see chairs, tables, office furniture stacked up against the door, people grabbing anything they could in the event that the shooter entered, as I said, their place of work. Unclear if the shooter made it to that particular office. And we're waiting for more of those really chilling and harrowing details from authorities tonight. But it was very clear from that still image, just the sense of chaos and the sense of panic that people were feeling, not only inside the building, but also outside of that high rise.
And Aaron, we're hearing conflicting reports of how many people were injured. Again, the preliminary numbers that we heard was one police officer, one civilian. We just heard from a witness that said that they saw 3 people that were being brought out by bystanders and those that were rushing in to help. Have you heard any additional information when it comes to how many victims may have been shot here?
Yeah, well, what NBC has been able to confirm from law enforcement officials so far is at least 1 civilian and at least 1 police officer were shot as a result of this incident. That officer is believed to be in grave condition. The New York Mayor, Eric Adams, in his update tonight saying that multiple people had been shot, which would leave the possibility that more than 2 had been shot. But again, we're waiting for final confirmation from authorities on those details, Scotty.
And I mean, there is so much commotion that's happening. It's they are the streets of New York, but what is going on? People can hear, all the honking and it sounds like yelling. Is that related to the scene, or is that just normal New York?
There, people have come out here to this area to see this area that's been cordoned off. They want to know what's going on. It is a point now of curiosity. Now that the situation has calmed somewhat, there are also some protesters who've gathered as well. They're protesting something completely different than what unfolded here in the early hours of this evening. But I would say it's still a very tense situation here in Midtown Manhattan. You can see just over this way that the people that have gathered to see what's going on, and is again, Gotti, it's a pretty tense situation. But at the moment, authorities are not letting anyone anywhere near that area over there, which is 345 Park Avenue.
It looks like people are coming out of that scene. I mean, that is some very good news. Unfortunately, we have some bad news. I believe we just got confirmation that there are 5 victims, 5 dead, including the shooter, though. So again, we're awaiting word from some possible press conference from NYPD. But at this point, all we know is 5 dead. That shooter has died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. We're going to continue to monitor all of this. You can find the latest on NBCnews.com.
Hello, I'm Natalie Pasquarello. We have an update for you right now on that breaking news in the deadly shooting in Midtown Manhattan. Want to get right on over to Jonathan Dienst, our chief investigative reporter. John.
Hi, Natalie. The suspect, we are told from multiple law enforcement sources, has now been identified. He is the suspect that we've shown you walking into the building carrying that assault rifle. We're told he's identified as Shane Devon Tamora. He was born in 1998. We're told he's a former football player, and investigators are looking into whether he intended to target the NFL offices, and that are located inside that building. The investigation is still early on. And again, he apparently played high school football and some other sports. But this one-time football player apparently from Las Vegas, Nevada area, is identified by multiple law enforcement sources as Shane Devon Tamura, going into the building, opening fire, and later killing himself on the 33rd floor of that building along Park Avenue. We have an update on the casualty count, but again, we're going to be very cautious with these numbers since they've been changing moment by moment. And what we have is that from multiple law enforcement officials, the police officer who was working in that lobby, he is now shot and killed and pronounced dead at an area hospital. We are told there are at least 4 others who were hit by gunfire, and several are in critical condition. We are awaiting official word from the mayor and the city police, as well as the FBI, on additional conditions, but there's been differing accounts as to their conditions. So we're going to stick with 1 police officer dead and several others wounded in this shooting along Park Avenue. And again, the suspect, apparently Shane Devon Tamura, that according to multiple law enforcement sources, seen carrying an assault rifle, walking into the building, opening fire in the lobby, making his way to the 33rd floor, and then apparently taking his own life on the 33rd floor. Again, question as to whether they are looking into whether he was targeting the NFL offices located in that building. That is the very latest that we have at this hour, and we will continue to update as more comes in.
Jonathan, we know you are continuing to work your sources. We appreciate the up-to-the-minute details. We're going to have you covered here on air on NBC4 New York and online at NBCNewYork.com for any new updates. Make sure you have our app. Thank you so much for joining us. American Ninja Warrior continues right now.
Good evening. We are starting with breaking news and live pictures out of New York City. This is a massive police response to a shooting in the heart of Midtown Manhattan. Sources telling us a gunman with some sort of long rifle or assault rifle opened fire at a skyscraper along Park Avenue, and at least 1 police officer and a civilian have been shot. We are also hearing the gunman may have also been shot, possibly from a self-inflicted gunshot wound after making it all the way to the 32nd or 33rd floor of that skyscraper. Again, an overwhelming police presence in the area that has now been locked down for several blocks, people being told to shelter in place. And we are also getting our first look at the shooter from surveillance video nearby. There it is right there. A man you see walking with sunglasses, carrying what looks like that assault rifle with a pretty long magazine there and some sort of possibly tactical strap, walking towards the building. Former FBI Supervisor Rob D'Amico is with us right now. Rob, you've been watching the coverage for the last hour or so. It does look like the tension has subsided a little bit as we are now hearing from NYPD that the suspect has been neutralized. But what are you seeing here?
Yeah, that's what I'm starting to hear myself, and that it was 1 shooter and not multiple shooters. Again, when social media first started pushing this out, there was rumors of possible multiple shooters. That happens a lot on these because, again, the sound of gunfire ricocheting off things and people, witnesses run.
Guys, I'm going to shut this down here in a second. Wanted to give you a quick update. As usual, NBC sucks because they don't have good information here. For those of you that don't know, I see they're still saying at least 1 officer and 1 civilian shot in Manhattan. I just went in to checked on another television, and another news network is already saying that 1 law enforcement officer and 4 civilians are dead. So it sounds like 5 people total are dead. I don't know if that includes this shooter because he did shoot himself. But this channel here again, a lot of times I look when something like this happens, I go looking for the live feed. And at the time, this one was the only one I could find. So it sounds like other people now are reporting more accurate information. Maybe these people being stuck on this live stream, they don't have the chance to actually do any real investigative reporting. But yeah, update right now is that there are as many as 4 dead, not shot, as many as 4 civilians who are dead, 1 law enforcement dead, and they expect that number to climb. It sounds like what happened is he shot the law enforcement officer on the street, and it sounds like the people he shot were inside the building. So again, 4 dead inside the building, and likely to be more, what the news coverage is saying elsewhere. I would go find somebody else to watch besides this NBC, because they kind of suck. So yeah, get your tactical straps ready, because NBC is letting us know that apparently is really deadly to have a tactical strap. And arm yourselves. The thing I can leave you guys with tonight is we are our own first responders. You can have the strictest gun control laws that you want, like New York City, and bad stuff's still going to happen. So if you have the opportunity to move out of these anti-gun places, move so that you can protect yourself and your family properly. Because unfortunately, this kind of stuff, for whatever reason, ain't going to stop happening. It did happen. For those of you who don't know, I put my video out earlier today. There were people shot in Reno earlier this morning at 7:30 a.m. And then now this. So the irony is not lost on me that here we are talking about NFA items, more specifically suppressors, actually. And the ease of getting them as far as reducing that tax stamp, and other people like Gun Owners of America calling to get them completely removed off of the NFA altogether. And now, if what we saw is what we think we saw, it looks like this shooter actually had a suppressor. Now, as I stated earlier, this has got to be the first time in history that a, quote, mass shooting has taken place with a suppressor. And oddly enough, only a week after we've been talking about removing them completely from the NFA. I smell a rat. Building where Blackstone was housed. I know Blackstone, BlackRock are technically different companies, but nevertheless, they do have ties. And there's a whole lot of weird stuff. You know, you talk about this guy. I heard reports earlier that a woman was shouting at people, yelling, why did you let him in? It sounded like this guy rolled right through there and walked right past law enforcement and possibly security guards into this building, and nobody attempted to stop him. Now, I'm not trying to cast aspersions on law enforcement, because I don't know that to be a fact yet. I did see law enforcement running towards the building earlier, maybe after he was already in, right? So I don't know what the full details are. I'm going to stay on this tonight. I'm going to kill the stream, but I'm going to stay on this tonight. I'll have a full video out tomorrow on this. And hopefully, you know the story, right? We're not going to know anything. Everything we do is just going to be speculation at this point. We're going to have to piece this together probably ourselves, because we won't get the full story. In fact, I look for information to be suppressed at the local level there in New York, simply because they are going to be so embarrassed that they have some of the strictest gun control laws in the world right there in that city. And this took place right under their nose in the heartbeat of the business district in Manhattan, New York. So they're likely going to probably suppress information as much as they can, because they want this story to go away. But I don't think it's going to go away, because an AR-15 was used, possibly a suppressor, a tactical strap was used, a 30-round magazine was used. Other than the tactical strap, and maybe they're going to outlaw tactical straps in New York now, everything that this guy had was illegal, including, guess what? Murder. Yeah, that was illegal too. But it's not going to stop the anti-gun people saying we need to have a new assault weapons ban. Look for that call tomorrow. Maybe before the sun even sets here, we'll see that call. Guys, thank you for hanging out with me tonight. I really appreciate that. I try to hit on these whenever there's any kind of a rampage shooting like this. I try to get them as quickly as possible to get the information out there, because we've seen it many times. If you don't pick up on the information while it's happening, a lot of that info, especially on these really strange, screwy situations like Las Vegas, a lot of that info starts to slowly disappear, and it's harder and harder to find. So sometimes it's really important that as these things unfold, we watch them unfold and we take perfect notice of what's happening out there. Guys, I hope you're in an area where you can carry. If not, I hope you're carrying anyway. Please watch out for your families. This kind of stuff right here should not happen. There's crazy people everywhere, and we still don't know a, quote, motive yet. I think there's some dark stuff happening here. This guy was after somebody because he specifically went to this building for this. I mean, he could have stood on the street and shot as many people as he wanted, right? If this was a true mass shooting. I mean, this is New York City. He could have stood on a street corner with his AR-15 and taken out way more than the 4 that are or 5 that are already dead, rather than going inside a building. So there's more to this story. Thank you, guys. Have a great evening, and I'll be back tomorrow with hopefully a full report or a fuller report on this. Have a good evening, guys.